Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel for another video between myself and Joe.
Hello.
We have just done the first part of our great big Capaldi costume retrospective, looking at the very first 12th Doctor costume to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the announcements.
10 years ago, man.
10 years, wow. But for this...
Less about the past,
well,
is to the future /
slightly.
Current period.
Yeah, we're turning the clock back a little bit less for this one, yeah, to last year, the end of last year. We're going to do a big retrospective over all 4 of the specials we got last year, the 60th specials and Church on Ruby Road. We'll touch on the Children in Need thing as well, and just do a big retrospective because, I have talked about these episodes and other videos on the channel and other collabs and things and reviews, but it'd be nice to do this, I think, and also because we did some stuff just before the episodes went out, about a month or so beforehand, or 2 months.
Some of it was scarily right, and some of it was scarily
wrong. Kind of like speculating and sort of putting some predictions down. So it'd be nice to revisit that and see what we've got to say about those episodes now they've been on. So let's start off then with that Children in Need thing.
That is really not a good way of referring to it.
So how did you find that? When did you first kind of become aware of it and what it was and what it was doing?
So I came back. Children in Need, was it on a Friday? Yeah, it must have been on a Friday. I believe I was at work that day. Came back. I fell asleep on the sofa. I woke up just before it and then found out it was subsequently on. I did watch it live on transmission as a result, and you know what? For a short little sketch, you lot, it's not that deep. Just enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It was all right.
Yeah.
It's a really weird one to place. You know what? We'll move on to it when we get to Star Beast, but the comedy in it's really off. If you get it
is a bit weird.
It's like it's trying to take itself seriously, but not.
It wants to have its cake and eat it, doesn't it? Yeah, it wants to do both. Because beforehand, I think, which way around was it? Was it they'd said it was definitely a sketch?
Yeah.
Or they said it was I think that was the way around. They said it was definitely a sketch and it's just a bit of fun. But then afterwards it was like, oh, well, actually this was like this was canon. It was a proper minisode and stuff. It was trying to have a foot in both camps, and I think particularly with the music, the comedy music, in the second half is
obviously, as there was the great debate about Davros, is what it is. It's been done for a respectful reason, and I respect Russell for his choices. And I think probably the serious element of that was the fact that going forward, this is who Davros is. I think that's what the serious sort of message of it was going to be, the way we're going to portray him is going to be different. Mm-hmm. I think that was probably what they were talking about. And overall, I thought it was handled well because, ultimately, the way I'm going to talk about the Davros situation is it's been done for a respectful reason, and Doctor Who have done so many workarounds for changing the way a character is.
Yeah.
And to show Davros, with none of the facial scarring, not the chair necessarily, also added a new dimension sort of to the villain.
Absolutely. It allows Julian Bleach to kind of
come forward.
Yeah, show more of his performance as well.
And show it's an actual villain, not because of a disability, because he's corrupt and evil due to time, of growing up in wartime.
Yes.
And going forward, people saying that sort of Davros as a character, if Russell is going to portray him in this form as Julian Bleach, I think you sort of just need to get over it, because the fact is, 12 gave him a bit of regeneration energy last time we saw him. So
you can make it
make a workaround around that.
I sort of feel the same, really. I think the thing is as well, for better or for worse, we don't know when we're going to see Davros again, anytime soon or not. I can kind of agree or get behind people saying, why say all this stuff if it's just for like a 5-minute sketch? Like, why, unless it's like a bigger kind of plan in the works to bring Davros back? I can kind of see why people might sort of say that. It would have made more sense to kind of do a bigger thing with him if you're going to go with this, to kind of have a proper story or whatever. But I suppose that'll come in time. It'll be interesting to know and to look back on, whether there is a bigger plan at work in the works here in terms of
Like maybe he's taken over an organisation on Earth.
Yeah, like maybe he's going to show up in Shooty's era or something. Obviously, it wasn't in the 14th.
And then making his own Daleks again, or doing something weird.
Yeah,
with the,
I think the idea has potential. People have been saying, I think, for a while that the Daleks kind of need shaking up a bit. I mean, they need a new redesign. This is a potentially a way forward to go with Davros. New Davros, new Daleks, new era. New start. So yeah, I think on the whole, I thought Julian Bleach did a really great job in the minisode as well. He's just such a creepy guy, a great performer.
It's like that Nightmare Man thing to him. When he played the Nightmare Man in Sarah Jane. There's something a little bit unnerving about the way he holds his face. So the way he acts.
I think more than a little bit. He's really kind of
terrifying,
really terrifying,
and it just makes you think. Because now he won't have the heavy prosthetics, he can be a lot more expressive.
Yes.
And he can act sort of the character in a different way going forward if we are to see him. But realistically, if you look at in terms of Davros appearances, last time we saw Davros, 2015. And before that was 2008. So these like 7-year gaps / 8-year gaps are becoming a common... so it might be a while.
It might, exactly. It might be a while.
And I think that rest, if it is for the Daleks as well, might not be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Either.
When do you think they're going to show up again? Then I mean, just to.
I don't want to spoil anything. Season 2.
Okay.
I've heard murmurings. I don't think it'll be season 1.
Right.
I think. On a technicality, if the Terry Nation estate agreement is to be believed, all that nonsense.
Yeah.
If that is to be believed, I assume by including this little Genesis Dalek here, I'm assuming by including him, they've worked a way round that because he will be counted for the specials, and the specials will be counted as Shooty's first series for the Dalek appearance. So I reckon season 2 is when. I don't believe that they're in that finale. Where they've been chased on the motorbike in the town centre.
I suppose we'll get onto that later on as well, like with predictions and things. But I don't know. Part of me thinks, okay, maybe that is a Dalek finale. Part of me thinks now that we've seen the specials and stuff, and we've heard about all these things to come with this pantheon of gods and mythical creatures and whatever it may be.
Maybe it's going to be a bit more.
Is it going to be more down that down that route,
as opposed to machinery
stuff?
And
a kind of. Wrapping up all that stuff rather
very
than
science
going with
based,
the Daleks, because the Daleks wouldn't really fit. Yeah, like you say, wouldn't really fit in with that, would they?
No.
So, maybe from that point of view, it makes sense. So, maybe that's the last we'll have seen for Davros and the Daleks for a little while. Well, but let's then move on to the first special proper then, so Star Beast.
It starts really weird.
Yeah, the little recap thing at the start. I maintain it wasn't really necessary. You get all that stuff.
It's clearly anyway. That is a Disney thing.
Yeah.
And I think they've just sent an email to Russell being like, "You can have people who have never watched this. Please, can you just have the Doctor go? If Donna ever remembers me, she will die."
Yeah, and I think
I can't see Donna. When he says that line, I can't see Donna ever again. It's like, just just take a seat.
Got this new face back as well, and all this stuff in his hands. I could see why they did it. I would have preferred it, I think, if it was like a separate thing, like a separate trailer or something. But to have that now part of the episode, I mean, I've kind of grown, like with most things, you get used to it on rewatch and stuff. You grow to kind of like or tolerate these things. But I think with that,
it's going to age badly.
Yeah, the fact that now, whenever you watch the Star Beast, like that is the first thing you get.
Your first interaction of Doctor Who.
I'm not. Yeah, I would have preferred it to be a separate thing, so we could have it. Start off actually.
Then
with
new titles.
New titles. What do you think of those?
There feels like there's a bit missing, so you can hear it's the end where it goes do do do, and then it cuts, and that's it. There's a bit of the music where they've clearly taped it.
Well, they definitely cut down
because they cut a bit out of it with 14 and Donna falling out the TARDIS and getting back in. So, but because if you actually listen to the original track they released, it's longer. And then it's like they've spliced it together really badly at the end. Just like for Shooty, you've got a little bit to do the effects work for it. Please just get that full theme in there for that introduction. And then, just even if it's like a couple more swirly bits of the TARDIS going around, or even as it's going to come apparent later on. The sparks of the TARDIS, when it flies through the vortex, are going to get bigger and bigger, because that's going to lead to something.
That's going to be
It's going to lead to something, but...
I think that the biggest crime for me, as I've said in other videos, is like the way the logo is integrated. It's just
it just like...
Not flattering
It does
whatsoever.
that, doesn't it? It just like curls in.
I'm sure there's probably some red tape or something that's kind of meant that they can't do anything else with that. Like, it has to be that particular PNG or whatever, but do a fresh render of it. Do something, integrate it better. It would lift it so much.
You know what would make sense? If you've got the TARDIS like spiralling down, and this is just an idea for you visual effects creators, why don't you have the final shot of the TARDIS flipping upside down? It shows the blank base of the TARDIS, and then the logo fades in with all the dust particles of the time vortex, and then it goes boom, Doctor Who, and then it shoots off in a straight line, and then you get your title, and that's it.
Yeah.
BBC, hire me.
So the episode itself, then. I suppose we'll sort of rank these later on.
Rank these at the end.
4 episodes. I have to say, I do have a soft spot for this one. I think more than other people. A lot of people said, it was fine. It was like a sort of return to form, but kind of just standard, like bog standard average
They gave
episode.
the game away too early, though. I think...
Which part?
With the Wrath.
The Wrath.
Basically, there's a bit in it.
It's
when they approach the kid, and they have a real... My mum, because we watched it on transmission, when they have a really ridiculous... I don't know if it was done intentionally to make them look a bit softer, but they're a bit... they're a bit like...
Yeah.
The kid is irrelevant. Find the killer teddy bear. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's just a bit like... I don't know. I think it was a fun one. It's very E.T. I did quite like that.
Yeah.
I did. I think I even said that in the original video. I predicted this one was going to be E.T.
Yeah.
But you sort of have the alien befriending, Yasmin Finney. Mm-hmm. And it just... I think the twist was done right. And I think the good thing about, specifically, spoilers, the Meep transition is I'm so glad it wasn't just like layered over CGI. I'm so glad it was 2 practical props. And it didn't look too cartoonish. It just changed enough. Like, the ears had changed a bit. They had become more arched.
Yeah.
And then the eyes had gone a bit more bloodshot, and then they added, like, the sharp teeth.
I still think, and it might be more because I'm more used to seeing the Meep and the other...
The blue, it's
guys,
like in his blue, isn't he? Is he blue in the comics?
I don't know, maybe. But in terms of the TV version, I mean, like, because of... we were so used to seeing them in the cute and cuddly guys... Still a little bit jarring for me. I know it wasn't entirely CG, like you say. It was a prosthetic or whatever for the evil version as well, but it looks a little bit off to me. But again, I've got more used to it.
I think it walks really odd, but I think it's because it's someone on their their knees, operating the suit. But it's just, I thought for an opening, it was nice. It was fun. It is Doctor Who is back, and this show, realistically, it's a family show. And it needs to have that fun aspect for the kids to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I thought that was the word. I think it was very fun, fast-paced, lots of things going on, your big unit battles in lots of different locations.
All that great stuff in the street,
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And all the stuff with...
The replication of the house, that is insane. So, all the internal stuff is...
In studio.
Yeah, it's all a studio build. Yeah. And even the outside of it. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the garden as well, wasn't it? Yeah, that was in the studio. Yeah, it's incredible the way they integrated those two things. But very fun episode. Liked what happened with the Doctor and Donna, the way that was all handled, and the Noble family having them back as well. Yeah.
What about the ending though? As in, so like.
See, on the whole, I'm kind to it. I don't mind. As I said in another video, I think the moment between the two of them where the glass goes down in the ship and it's like, this is what we have to do, and the music and everything building in the background.
And she did have a fake out death. I did say she'd have a fake out death.
And the build up with the code words and stuff. I thought that was a really kind of, I
think it was nice.
Emotional moment almost, really. Harking back to, 15 years ago and watching these episodes go out as a child, and that was my first Doctor companion pairing and stuff. So it did hit you there, and binary, and then the way that kind of then became something more as well with
it's
Yasmin
very
Finney's
Russell.
character.
Like,
very Russell, yeah.
he
to
could
hang
have
it
made
all
it
in
really
a bow.
complicated, where he said, "Oh, the only reason she's alive is the toy maker's intervention temporarily."
Yes.
So if the toy maker loses the game and goes away, she dies. That could have been a route they could have gone down. But I think it's a really nice Russell thing where it's just, oh, she's had a kid, and now because it's split between the two, it's easier for them both to process it.
I think it makes sense.
And for them both to then let it go easier.
Yeah.
And also, to be fair, what people need to, when they read the lines of this episode, Donna has grown as a character in the last 15 years. You can tell she doesn't really want to be off travelling. She even says to Shooty in the third one, I don't know, this is shooting head, not this again, and charges out
she's got her family, hasn't she?
She wants to be
her
home.
life back at home. Yeah.
While in 2008, she literally said, I want to stay, to him in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
So maybe...
So she's developed, exactly.
So she's developed into learning to let go, and maybe she couldn't let go in that incident.
Right,
so
I see.
The Doctor had to wipe her mind.
Yeah.
So the way you look at it, I know some people have kicked off a ruckus about it, but that's Twitter for you, isn't it? But, like, it was a really nice, soft way of doing it, so then, like, the rest of the specials, because it would have just been, like, baggage. It would have been another plot thread
I think it would, looking
to
back.
carry,
Yes,
and then...
I think so. You know, get that out of the way, then you can have fun afterwards, can't you? With them, you know, being back on good terms and knowing everything, and with her memories and everything, and I think that was the right choice. I think overall, so I mean, there were one or two lines, like, I think with that ending, while on the overall I find it convincing and stuff. There's the odd thing, like, where Donna's like, oh, and the toys, it was all, and those shots and stuff. It's a little bit kind of like, okay,
can you chill, mate?
We get it.
Don't want the references.
It's all right, yeah.
You know? I think that alienated the viewer probably the most, because they would have been like, "What's that spaghetti face thing?" You know,
Yeah. Well, why is there like this singing in the background? What's that?
Why is there Satan there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I think the one thing I probably would maybe say, not so much a criticism, but something I would have wanted a bit more of perhaps, was Yasmin Finney as Rose.
Yeah, I did feel a bit undercut, that role. I don't know what it is about it. It was just like...
Because obviously she's integral to the resolution in her own way, but
there's like a whole middle bit where she has nothing to say. You know that whole taxi bit where her and Sean are in the taxi?
Yeah, where they're just in the background, just keeping quiet.
It's like being a Doctor Who NPC.
Yeah.
Literally.
It was.
And it's just like, why weren't they given more to do? Like, obviously, if you've seen the trailer, Shooty hugs her in the trailer in the unit base.
She's going to be back.
So she's going to be back for sure, and please be a future companion. Please be a future companion. I think it would be a really nice, like, little setup if they wove her in early on, right at the beginning, and then, like Donna, in like a series or two, she becomes the prime.
It would be nice.
It'll be a nice reference.
I wonder whether she's kind of just not so much doomed, but doomed to just be a supporting character, though. It will depend on how she's used going forward, and what. Yeah, maybe she will kind of always occupy that sort of River Song Brigadier type role, whether they're sort of a regular character, but they're not. They don't go all the way with it. I don't know, but more of her would have been nice, and I think particularly with the Meep and stuff. You know, like, she's the one who meets the Meep for the first time. So it was a bit of a shame, I felt, like, when the Meep turns evil and stuff, that she doesn't get more of a reaction and stuff on, like, oh, you betrayed me and all this kind of stuff. And
well, it's like,
that would have been quite nice.
I feel like there should have been a bit. So when the Meep really horribly refers to her as a weird child, and Donna says, "Don't you dare!" I feel like Rose could have been.
She could have been.
You know what I mean? She could have been given something, or she could have at the end of the episode, done, stood up to the Meep more, maybe like over a communication comm or something, just like, she had all the controls there, you know what I mean? She could have had like a badass, like, speech and just be like, bye mate, you know what I mean?
I think that would have been nice. That's the only thing I'd say about that one. Yes, overall a fun episode, we'll get onto the ranking, but there was a time, I think, when this was my favourite. Maybe it still is. I don't know. I'll decide later on. It is good fun, isn't it? Shall we move on to then wildly onto the second special? So with this, as we discussed in our previous speculation video, there was a lot of speculation about what it was going to be. The redacted cast members and stuff.
Well, not nothing. Something.
Something.
Definitely different.
Not things.
Not things.
Not thing. Oh god. Yeah. So actually, with this episode, I think I was saying to you beforehand, wasn't I, that it left me feeling a little bit flat on broadcast. I recognised that okay, this is a very strong, tight chamber piece. I think I couldn't quite shake off the feeling that they had misjudged some of the marketing and things, like with the redacted cast members in Doctor Who magazine, where it was like, okay, one of them's Wilf or Bernard Cribbins, one of them is Isaac Newton, one of them is Susan Twist, who I suppose we'll be talking about a bit more. But
yes,
that felt like a weird thing of, like, why? Like, you didn't have to do that. Why did you do that? Why did you lead us down the garden path with that? I think actually now, a bit of time's passed. I'm much more kind to it, and kind of divorced from that original context. I am more inclined to like it, and there is some really strong stuff in there. I think with the Doctor and Donna and the atmosphere and the mood, the tone, and the doubles,
specifically when they get separated.
Yeah, some really
I think
eerie stuff as well.
Trick,
creepy
though.
Stuff. Yeah,
I think they missed a trick, and this is the doubles. Obviously, they have the time they get mixed up, obviously, with who's who, and then they're on their own. But there should have been like a second part to that almost, where Donna faced herself, and then it projects all of Donna's insecurities. The Donna version projects all the insecurities that Donna has back at her. And then the Doctor, like, Smith would have come back. He's not going to come back anymore, if you've heard him in recent interviews, because I think he's a little bit disappointed from what I've heard.
Oh, really?
I saw an interview where he turned around and someone asked him if he'd be back, and he said, yeah, they haven't asked me, I don't think I will be,
Right.
And he just looked a bit upset.
Oh.
But, like, I kind of wish in that moment it could have just, like, faded between the faces, and I'm sure you would have got Jodie back, you probably would have got Smith. Don't think you would have got Capaldi or Eccleston. But even if it was, like, briefly, because they're shapeshifters, so why don't you have a scene with the two Doctor, the shapeshifter Doctor, and the normal, and then shapeshift into a past Doctor, and then you can have villainized versions of that. Maybe they tried that, and the contracts didn't work out, or whatever, and
that's true.
We don't know what happens behind the scenes.
What
you know what I mean?
Scenes. I mean, I agree to an extent. I think there was literally the mechanism to do it there. The plot device. So a shapeshift, it would have been perfect for that, and having evil versions or whatever.
And like it would have been 2 minutes in.
Different things to do, and yeah. I sort of get the idea that maybe they didn't want to dilute things too much or distract or from the Doctor and Donna or like from the 14th Doctor and Donna and David Tennant and Catherine Tate and have too much going on or sort of
but why
have these people back briefly and not do justice to it.
But why reference the Flux at that point? You know what I mean? If you don't want to... Because that's probably the most poignant moment of that episode is when he says, it destroyed half the universe because of me. So of course I keep running, of course I do. How am I supposed to look back on that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sort of sets up his departure eventually.
Yes,
because
and there's a lot of that kind of seeded through, isn't there? Like, through the first two, that you go back and you watch and you're like, oh yeah, this is kind of all heading to this point all along of him, settling down and stopping and just, having a breather.
The one thing I will say about Wild Blue Yonder, how unconvincing is her coffee toss to end up in that scenario so the TARDIS is on fire? Like...
Yeah.
Initially, I thought it was going to be something cool, like the Toymaker, because he says to the Doctor, "I pull the strings." I thought it was going to be like Toymaker lifting her arm and like doing something weird, like she was being puppeteered.
Right.
But that's what I thought when I watched it on transmission. I was like, there's something more. Like, nope.
And it's funny as well. Like, I've seen people say, like, going back to that moment, like that's the moment where everything that's now been set up for the future, like. That's the moment where everything goes wrong. Like if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't have gone there. They wouldn't have done the thing with the Salt to unleash the Toymaker and the Toymaker's legions and whatever.
But it would have been a nice full circle thing if the Toymaker had said, "Oh, I went back down your timeline, Doctor. I broke into your TARDIS because I can break the laws of the universe.
Yeah,
and I made your companion throw that coffee." You know what I mean?
Yeah, that
would have been very Stephen Moffat to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as well, like with the Toymaker and his influence across the specials, there was some feeling at the time that he would have more to do, or like be across the 3 specials, be pulling the strings, like you say. In the end, we didn't get him for the one episode, which we'll talk about. But yeah, that was an interesting thing as well.
It's weird how they end up there. That's all. It's like you get, in essence, right, coffee blows up TARDIS, but it's just a bit odd. Also, why is there a coffee machine in the TARDIS? Like a panel dedicated to it. Like I think it's implied in Unleashed. To be fair to them, I think it's implied to be a machine that can make the Doctor anything.
Any drink, I think. Yeah.
No, anything. Anything in general.
Really? Okay.
So I wonder if it's going to become the plot device. We need a gun. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's implied to be.
Okay.
But it might just be like quick fixes, for whenever the plot needs it. But the big sort of thing about this episode was the effects. A, practical, B, CGI.
Yes.
What was your opinion on that set? That wasn't a set. That was just a walkway. And that.
So, I can see
the direction.
Yeah, I can see what they wanted to do with it, and in terms of always stretching the boundaries and stuff of what's possible, and wanting to kind of show off. And I don't use that term in a kind of derogatory way. It just, that's what they were doing. They were trying to say, look, we've
got more money now.
Yeah, exactly. And the show is always trying to do that to some extent. I think with that corridor, it is somewhat bewildering to me. Like,
it's
just how overlit, how big, how like people have said since. Like, imagine if it was like a really dark, dingy, atmospheric, moody space instead, and how that would have worked. I'm guessing there are 2 reasons why they made it so big. So number one, obviously to have that sense of scale and space and to show off and stuff.
Also to give a large enough corridor for David Tennant to run down at the end.
Yeah, and to link to that, number 2, large enough corridor to have the knot things get bigger and sort of blow up to sort of barricade it off as well.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that was the thing.
That is the worst bit of CGI in that episode, when they get all entangled.
It's funny though.
It is funny, but you look at it and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
There was, I watched it, I tell you, my mum was at work, because I usually watch, I still watch lots with my parents. I don't know if you do the same.
Really. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I watched it with my dad, and it's one of the very few times my dad's ever watched Doctor Who, and he just looked at me and he went, "What are we watching?" And he was like, because he had watched all the Tennant and Eccleston stuff, and he dipped out, and then Tennant's come back, and he was watching it with me, and he just like turned around and went, "What?" Yeah. But it was bonkers, but he loved it.
Yeah,
in a weird way.
I suppose it's the risk you run, isn't it, with that kind of uncanny valley stuff of it.
It was like the Absorber. It's
so
so bad, it's good.
Yeah, because it's kind of that fine line between what's sort of creepy or unnerving and what's actually just like, oh, okay, like, we can tell this is an effect, it's funny, like, we're just going to laugh at it. I think for the most part they judged that right, but I think, the thing with the corridor, it just didn't feel realistic, and particularly when we saw the rest of the ship as well, and the exterior. Like, why would there be a corridor that big and that long in that space? It just didn't really make sense. I mean, there's some things like that. I think, on the whole, like I say, I'm kinder to this episode than I was at the time. And there actually is some really strong stuff and some nice stuff in there.
Like the ending.
Yeah. Oh, you mean with
Wilf? Yeah.
Oh, with Wilf. Yeah. I mean, that was nice as well. Felt a little bit strange though to have him there, but again,
just plot. But I don't think they could have thought of another.
No, I can see why it was that way, and it was nice as well to give him his chance.
Because all the TARDIS
in the
stuff was shot last.
Yeah,
I think it was shot. All the TARDIS stuff was shot last, I believe, from what's been implied. So they probably
they were still building the set.
You never know. There might have been something in it before, because I think they filmed a bit of him actually going in the TARDIS at the end.
I don't know whether that was just people seeing the bit they did shoot where he's like pushing him towards the TARDIS and thinking he went inside.
I don't know.
It could have been that, but equally,
I'm glad we got it.
Glad we got it. Bit of a weird one on that note as well, though. How obviously we had the big thing about the TARDIS being wheelchair accessible in the third special. We never saw that actually in action. either with Wilf or Shirley. I suppose it'll come down the line. We'll see Shirley.
Well, it's specifically Shooty's variant, that is. David's isn't.
That's...
So
yeah, true, I suppose.
One has the ramp and one doesn't.
So does that mean that then, Wilf couldn't have
Yeah.
gone in, I suppose? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? Because she does say to him, you finally caught up with the 21st century.
Yeah.
So I think that's to imply that the new TARDIS... It's not a new TARDIS, it's the same TARDIS.
I come to think of it. And I think, didn't they change the prop as well between the 60th specials and then, like, Church on Ruby Road onwards, I think? Because people noticed on set, didn't they? Like, there's like a
ramp,
a new thing like on this prop. They've changed it. I wonder what this could be. But yeah, let's talk about the Giggle then. The finale. I have to say, I had a lot of fun with this one once again. I was rewatching something the other day actually, like with the toy maker at the start in his shop and all the carnage in the streets, and then like the stuff with Unit as well. The one thing I would say again. Similar to the Star Beaters, that has some of the stuff set up near the starts.
Just feels a bit convenient.
Well,
like, you know what I mean? Like, you get from A to B a bit too quickly. Because I feel like you see that initial carnage, you see the plane crash, you see everyone running around like lunatics, like they've taken something. And then you sort of get to Unit Base, and then you don't see anything else.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You don't see any more of that stuff again. And because I really liked the idea, and the idea they then kind of talk about in the Unit Base and with Kate going rogue as well, all that stuff about
could have done with
the Giggle,
I think.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see a bit more of that, a bit more of the madness, a bit more of the chaos, and the implications of that, and what people were doing. You know, we see Kate, we see that guy on the street, we see Trinity Wells and the politician or prime minister or whatever. I wonder whether he's going to be back as well in the future. The guy we see briefly at the podium.
Oh, is he supposed to be like an allegory for Boris?
Well, yeah.
Effectively, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder whether he might crop up again.
Possibly.
Maybe.
The only thing that's really weird...
Also, that guy, from the newsreader from Starbeast was saying as well, maybe he's going to come back into play.
But the one weird thing is the way that Donna identifies it's an arpeggio. La 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 la. But then Shirley's like, yo mate, look, it's this guy laughing. You know, does Unit just have a thing that...
Yeah, I've seen people say that actually as well.
I'm a bit like
a database of...
like, is the Unit set sentient? Like, it just hears it and it just...
you've got the Vlinks.
The Vlinks, maybe.
The Vlinks.
But, right, it would maybe, like, have been more believable if the Vlinks had turned around and gone, I've gone through archives of data within 15 million seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've found this. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, and I found this little snippet that briefly matches what Mel has sung.
Yeah.
But I was just... That's... Because then they get the date, the time, and that's how they end up in the past. I don't know. I feel like it should have been more like the transmission was hidden, and maybe as soon as they started playing the transmission, they maybe started. It was like so you know how the TARDIS has the cloaking effect. What's it called?
The chameleon
circuit.
Yep.
It's a bit like the Torchwood hub with the elevator.
Yeah.
Where you don't recognise it. Maybe it was embedded into the TV screen, but as soon as they started to play it out loud constantly, they then see the screen fades away and it's Stooky Bill. That might have been a better way of doing it, so it's sort of like the Archangel network, as soon as
drums,
that happens,
knocks.
That's another thing Russell does that's really irksome is he reuses ideas, but like that could have faded away, and then you like that perception filter is the terminology for it, fades away, and then they see the puppet as opposed to, and then maybe you have someone in the room saying that's first television broadcast, because someone in Unit it could even be Shirley who's like intelligent enough to know that, you know what I mean? Because there is that history. It's on it's on display in the Bradford Museum, isn't it?
It is.
So.
I think I read that they're kind of renovating the museum at the moment, but hopefully at some point it'd be nice to go and see that. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Steal it. We're making a Doctor Who spin-off called Stooky. Can you believe though that was going to be the original villain?
Yeah, that's kind of like
bonkers.
Whack. Okay. I mean,
It's kind of terrifying. It looks like Matt Smith. They've even like made the clothes make it look like Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Because it's got like a tweedy suit, hasn't it, and a bow tie.
Yeah.
I know. Just a little odd bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's the main thing that I would say. It's a shame that some of those ideas didn't come back into play later on. And while I don't necessarily mind the idea of the bi-generation, I like the way the 14th Doctor's arc was kind of closed off and how we left him and Donna and stuff. I do feel the kind of first 2/3 of the episode were stronger, more convincing.
It's as soon as they get into his shop, I feel like that's when that really kicks in. But the one thing that
the kind of sense of momentum and stuff.
This is, like it's gonna hit the
kind of,
it's like this is bad.
The sense of
because they're in the endless corridors, and he sat there and like TARDIS sonic screwdriver. When she take all my toys away, what am I? You know what I mean? And he's the one bit that because we're on this bit, he says to her, "I don't know if I can save your life this time." I don't know why he says that to her in that scene. It's a really bizarre bit of dialogue that, because it's obviously for the trailer.
Well, yeah.
She has like 2 fake out deaths. She has the fake out death in Starbeast. Then she has the fake out death in Wild Blue Yonder, where they switch at the end.
True.
Can you imagine if he took the wrong one?
Game over. Yeah.
I think someone's actually done an edit on YouTube where that is just the ending.
Bye bye, Donna. Yeah. Oh my god. That would have been quite something.
But I just don't get why it's like there's not like a scene like that in the Giggle where you think she's gonna kick the bucket. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose
properly.
Donna kind of gets a bit lost in the mix as well, doesn't she? Overall,
well, she gets trapped by the puppets. Half. You know what I mean? Like she gets like.
I suppose she gets that moment, doesn't she? Yeah, which.
But they're not exactly threatening. They're just a bit creepy. I think they were really well handled, but they are terrifying.
The effects and stuff were great, like the kind of stop motiony type, whatever it was with them.
One stop motion, it was loads of people.
That's right, wasn't it? It was stop motion for the robot, wasn't it, in Wild Beyond, I think. Yeah, but yeah, whatever effects, fantastic, looked great. And I suppose overall, for me, there was a sense of momentum and that kind of roller coaster building thing, building to that climax. On the one hand, I like how it's setting up that kind of tragic ending, regeneration story thing of, the Doctor's going to die, but then sort of subverts that by having a much more celebratory ending, light-hearted and stuff. But yeah, it's still a little bit of a weird one. Not so much the bi-generation idea, but just the way the final third of that story is devoted to...
It's just too crammed.
Explaining what that idea is and the implications and stuff, and even that didn't quite go into enough detail, really, about the implications for other Doctors and stuff.
It just should have been a 2-parter. I love the idea of Shooty appearing halfway through an episode. That's great.
Yeah.
But you need 2 parts to do it, because I feel like you get your 2/3 of setup, you get the really great bit in the toy shop where you get the Doctor shown all... It's weird they bring up all the past companions and Flux. That's a little bit odd, I will admit. I think you could have just said that, I think we could have done without the whole show with Neil Patrick Harris with the puppets. I don't know what your opinion is.
I quite like that.
I like it, but I feel it just alienates new viewers. I think you just need to know this guy's from the past. He's bad. That's it.
Okay.
I think, and then more time could have been devoted to maybe going back to the present and just chaos ensuing still. I wish they took it down to street level.
Yeah.
Like what the filming looked like with him in the top hat and things.
More of that.
More of that street level sort of action where you have to deal with him on the street. And it wasn't like it was even shot in COVID time, was it? It was shot afterwards, wasn't it?
It was that summer 2022.
It was the Jubilee, wasn't it, around that time?
And
it was that really hot
the Jubilee
summer.
Was last year. Was it her birth, the Queen's birthday or something?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it was. Something like that, wasn't it?
No, it was Coronation.
Of course, yeah. I'm getting mixed up. Coronation last year, it was the Jubilee before that, wasn't it? Yeah, of course.
But I kind of wonder, maybe that's why they were limited in because maybe they couldn't use any of the big London locations, potentially, if they...
Well, I think I heard someone, maybe on the commentaries or whatever, say this about why they chose Camden. Yeah, that's right. It's because they had all the stuff going on in central London around that time. So that's a weird thing as well, because the geography does not make sense. Obviously, the bit in the Giggle is in Bristol anyways, but it's not even London in the first place.
Yeah, like where's that bit in Bristol in Camden? I can't think of one bit in Camden that remotely
exactly.
looks like it.
Having been there a couple of times, it's like
don't think
that
about it.
That does not make sense. Don't think about it.
Don't think about it. But
I mean, the regular viewer won't know that, but yeah, I think it does feel like I love the way that Camden was used, and I think it worked really well in the final thing. But I'm guessing that maybe some of that stuff, the bit that in Camden or the Bristol stuff or whatever. I suppose the Bristol stuff would still have to have been shot elsewhere anyway, just because it'd have been so busy and it wouldn't be practical to do that in London itself. But I think the Camden stuff was maybe intended to be somewhere a bit more central, perhaps, and certainly yes, more ground level stuff would have been really nice. Just kind of
like I love the spice up your life bit, even though I think Neil should have been singing that.
Yeah,
if they've got someone from a performing background.
Yeah. But maybe that's still to come with some of the other
potentially
gods and things in the future.
But I don't get me, that unit set, it's beautiful and you're getting your money's worth out of it. But I just feel like there should have been some street level stuff towards the end.
When you stop and think about it, it's a lot of stuff
like
either in the unit sets or on the helipad, isn't it?
Like he could have
dominates the whole story
because he's this god figure who can just make things.
Yeah,
and he's suddenly on the galvanic beam. He could have just gone, "Bye, Doctor," and when he jumps after the spice up your life, he goes down to the street level, and you just see him in the middle of a street. The gun pops up, he's just shooting people down, and then that's when you get the Doctor saying, "Stop, stop, stop! Your fight is with me," because maybe he runs out of the unit headquarters while he's playing shooting ducks with humans, and then you have the Doctor get shot, and then you have the bioregeneration.
It would have been nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. I suppose at the end of the day, it's probably a budget thing. And like again with the, I think Russell said like at one point they wanted to have Stooky Bill's face appearing on every screen across London or across the world or something, and they were going to cut away to televisions and phones and what have you. And again, it was just a bit too ambitious. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe there was a way that they could have done more stuff like that. I think it would have benefited certainly if they could have found a way to do that. Tell us about your views then on the bi-generation, because I've sort of been into mine in detail and stuff, but
I'm unsure.
Yeah,
I don't know if undercuts Shooty's arrival. It just feels very odd. I get it's a clever way of them winning the game because there's two of them against one.
Yeah,
I get it's a really clever way around it, but I just feel I don't know. I kind of like that he says, "I've got you" at the end after it's all over and he hugs him out. I think that's really sweet to see because that's the only person the Doctor would find it reassuring from would be himself.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good way of doing a multi-Doctor story. I'm just a bit, I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit baffled in a way. Like, I don't really know how I feel like another Doctor's performance being that very first being shared. Can you imagine if they did that with Troughton? Like, I know he was the very first one, but can you just imagine, like, it just, and like for Tennant viewers, I think I've seen a lot of confusion about it. People are saying, "Oh, is he back?" Like some people at work who I work with, they were like, "Oh, is he back full time?" And I said, "Oh, well, I don't really know. I think he's gone for a bit, but he might pop in a bit, like like season 2 or for a spin-off."
He's gone for now.
He's gone for now. Like it's a nice retirement plan for the man.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
But you just sit there and I'm just like, the worst part about it is it like Shooty is just a different level in terms of performance. Like as soon as he pops out of David, the energy is there and it makes David, it just makes him feel a bit old, by comparison. I don't know if that was the intention.
I think somewhat, because you get that in the TARDIS scenes as well, and they probably. I mean, obviously he's wearing a different costume, isn't he? With the
he's meant to be a more mature Doctor.
He's meant to look a little bit sort of older and more haggard and stuff, but
it's just
I
don't know. It's just like it's like is this guy still the Doctor? No, but I don't know. I think I would have just preferred a more immediate change. But
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I
like the idea, but I don't think it should have been.
I like it as an idea as an anniversary present to the show, to make it easy to bring back Doctors in the future and to make it easy for those Doctors to come back and to have an incentive for them to come back, like with David Tennant, like the retirement plan. But then part of me also think it's going to be strange.
How bad is this going to age?
Looking back, like at the Shooty era as a whole.
Where's your start point?
Is it Christmas?
Is it this?
Is it season 1? Is it the Giggle? Yeah, like it feels so kind of diluted, which I suppose in a sense might work, you know, because like okay, you've got him everywhere, and he's in all these different episodes, and he's you're not waiting for him to come. He's already here, and he's been here a while and stuff. But yeah, part of me would have liked a neater sort of start point for his Doctor, where it's like, okay, and this is where it begins. It's a different way of doing it. It's more like Eccleston, where by the time of that Doctor's first episode, they're already established somewhat, and so you don't have to deal with a lot of that baggage, and you can get straight into the story and have them sort of fully formed. But I don't know, it can't help but feel a little bit weird, given given what we've got used to in recent years with post-generation stories and stuff, and having that, obvious, explicit.
I just can't imagine them doing it, say, from Peter to Jodie like that. No. I can't imagine them ever doing it.
No.
And it's just like any other Doctor, whatever race, gender, or whatever. I just feel it would undercut any performance. I don't know. It's a very odd one. I think with time, depending on what the plans are.
Yeah.
And I hope they use them. Say Sylvester comes back for a scene or something. As the older version of himself.
Yes.
And like, say they use that in future for like dropping them in as little cameos, like little Easter eggs, then yeah, I'll appreciate it. But if it's just for this, just to keep David around, I will be a bit like...
And almost, if they don't do that, if they don't sort of mine it for all it's worth, it's like, well, what was the point kind of thing?
It almost comes the effect like introducing Jo Martin as the Doctor, what was the point of that? Like, she's not in that many episodes. She has probably the total screen time of just over an hour in total.
If that, yeah.
It's
not a lot, is it?
It's not a lot.
Yeah.
It might be actually less than John Hurt, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
But some Doctor Who expert out there will be able to work it out. But it's a bit like one of those decisions, like, if you're going to make it, then please stick to it. You know what I mean? So you actually do something with it. I don't want to see Tennant immediately. I made that perfectly clear.
Yeah.
I made that perfectly clear in the previous video. But to be fair, one thing I have changed my opinion on is the thought of Donna dying. I initially said I was going to throw my TV remote out the window.
Oh, of course, yes.
I'm over that now.
Yeah.
But this whole Tennant thing, he is Doctor Who, but when Troughton got to that stage where he had returned too much by about the two Doctors, I'm worried if this is what this is becoming. Because when we were watching it, my mum actually said to me, she turned around and went, so we've watched this, love Shooty, but it makes you also want another season of Tennant, in a way. And I don't know if that's being done purposefully, so when they do a spin-off one day and he pops up, everyone's like, way!
It's going to be very interesting, going forwards to see how it's implemented.
I feel it alienates your viewer, that's the only issue.
Yeah.
To anyone new. Especially if you watch it on the Disney Plus platform, then you're like, what the hell is this? Or the way it's all laid out.
The way Disney have done it, because apparently they haven't even at Christmas, that wasn't their proper launch. The proper launch is going to be season 1. And then we've already had these kind of 2... sort of false starts in a way. But let's talk about the Christmas special, Church on Ruby Road. The sort of proper start for this Doctor.
How does it open? I'm trying to think.
It opens with a little bit of narration from him at the start. I quite like that. The little with the church and
yes,
the baby
let me tell you
a
Christmas story.
Yeah, I do like that as a sort of introductory thing, and how it kind of crashes into the titles as well. I like that. And a lot of the early part of the episode I do enjoy, with the thing of him in the club or whatever, and with Ruby's introduction and those little scenes where it's them kind of bumping into each other and stuff. I think I can't help but feel overall that for me this is the weakest one, personally speaking.
I think it was light-hearted though.
It was light-hearted. It was
a Christmas special.
It was a Christmas special. It was a.
You've got to put in that respect where you've just had like the Doctor battle a god, effectively a toy god. You've got to sort of put him back in his box.
It just
literally
for me it felt, for better or for worse, more like kind of a vibe or a mood than like an actual plot.
It's definitely a new era. The way it's shot and everything, like even that club scene, like you can tell this is a very different direction now.
Yes, and stuff like that gets me excited for going forward as well, and thinking this is something really special here that we're kind of embarking on. I think for me, I wanted more from the Goblins and the Goblin King, and more of a kind of proper third act almost. I think when they go back to the flat after they've been on the ship, and they just spend like 10 minutes doing some scenes in there, and then Ruby goes missing. It feels like the episode's kind of sort of just kind of stalled a little bit for me.
The only time they're face to face with the goblins, I actually think, is when they're on that ship.
Yeah.
Because even when he jumps on the spire the ladder to pull it down so the spire goes through.
They're not in the same.
He's not in the same
space
vicinity, is he?
No.
But the thing I want to ask is, you are like your music.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Opinions on this going forward is a thing.
The song. The Goblin song once again is one of those things that I listened to it for the first time when it came out, and I was like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And then
oh my god,
by the time of the episode, I kind of got used to it, and we knew to expect it and stuff. The fans did, at least. I mean, the general public not so much, but like, I kind of got used to the idea. I think the bit with the Doctor and Ruby singing, I liked that in principle, but I think it felt perhaps a little bit too like polished.
Well, it's good to meet you. It's
like
good to greet you. It's good to
auto-tuney.
diddly deet you.
The lyrics were not
on
quite
earth
there.
is that?
Not quite there.
What does diddly deet you mean? It's good.
I don't know even how to begin to answer that. No, not a clue. But going forward, I mean, I could see clearly this is going to be a big thing, with other stars that we've got lined up, like Jinx Monsoon or whatever. I'd be very surprised if there's not some kind of number involving her, singing, dancing, whatever.
There's a massive battle to come.
Jonathan Groff.
Middle of Abbey
probably.
Road. Stuff flying around.
There we go.
So
it's one of those things, isn't it? So I kind of, each era has its own distinctive things, and they have to do different stuff to make it different and stand out. And obviously, with this being a Disney audience as well, they're trying to get on board. It makes sense to go down that route. I mean, there are two things at play, aren't there? There's that, and there's the kind of magical, mythical, fantasy type stuff as well.
I'm not sure how I like that with the idea of time travel, though. The magical aspect.
It feels a bit weird. It does.
It's a bit odd blending science with magic, because I feel like you need them as two separate entities. I feel like with magic, you can't explain it. Time travel, you sort of can. Now, obviously, time travel ain't possible, but, it's got a science to it.
Yeah.
Logically.
See, from my point of view, I mean, certainly from what we've had of the goblins so far, not massively convinced. The toy maker was more convincing for me. I liked the way it was done there, and if it's stuff like that, or they're just kind of using fantastical imagery, like I think we've got a bogeyman coming up and things like that, and
the thing that looks very Stranger Things.
The kind of green.
It's the knockoff Demogorgon as. Sorry.
Let's go to episode 1, I think, and like other stuff presumably to come as well. And if it's more about using those type of concepts and ideas, but with a kind of more slightly sci-fi backing, or kind of just importing those things into a sci-fi world, I think it could work nicely. I think it'll be nice, this idea of this pantheon of creatures or whatever, or a legion, this kind of group of beings. It'll be a nice way to kind of say, well, these are our monsters, these are our villains.
And they break the laws.
This is our...
The laws of the universe are physically breaking, so everything the Doctor knows. And it kind of forces him into new territory.
It does, doesn't it?
Everything he knows, he will start questioning. The laws of the universe are literally breaking, so these things...
It's a nice avenue to go down in that sense, and all
and
these
you can leave
monsters
it
coming from the same place, and...
to their powers and what they get from.
Exactly, yeah.
And it makes them sort of easier to write.
I think from that point of view, potentially, it's a quite canny thing for Russell to do, and some new territory to explore, and similar with the singing, dancing, whatever. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Shall we talk about some of the stuff finally that's been set up for these episodes?